So this might be the best thing I've ever done. I've minified the tiramisu. Starting with the base of the tiramisu, which are the ladyfingers. A ladyfinger is kind of like a dry sponge cake-like biscuit. You can of course just go buy these pre-made, but they usually do come in pretty big portions. So if you don't want to commit to a whole pack, or maybe it's not accessible where you live, here's how you can make your own at home. This all comes together pretty fast, so in terms of prep, line your baking tray with parchment paper and also preheat your oven. Prep the piping bag. I like to fit mine with a round tip. Then to make the batter, crack a large egg into a mixing bowl and add the white granulated sugar, and whip this until it is pale and fluffy and almost tripled in volume. Add some pure vanilla extract about halfway through and continue whipping. Once the egg is ready, sift in the all-purpose flour, along with the ground nutmeg and a pinch of salt. And you can put different types of spices or even use ground tea leaves to change up the flavor of the ladyfinger. To bring the batter together, fold using a rubber spatula very gently so that you do not deflate the egg. Only mix until there is no more dry bits of flour left and no large visible clumps. This should still be a very fluffy mixture. And then we can transfer this into the prepared piping bag so that we can shape them into ladyfingers. Give the tray a light tap just to smooth out the surface of the ladyfingers, and then into the preheated oven this goes for 9 to 10 minutes until they're golden brown. The bake time can vary depending on the size of your ladyfingers. As soon as these come out of the oven, they're still going to be a little bit soft, so just let it cool completely on the pan. They're going to continue to dry out a little bit, and then they'll become really good and crispy. Aren't they so much more fun when they're mini? This recipe makes more than enough for what you need for the single portion of tiramisu, so you're gonna have plenty to snack on. But of course, if you know you're gonna make tiramisu quite regularly and you don't want to make these fresh every single time, you can just make a really big batch of it. This is my stash. Can you tell I like tiramisu? I like to be well stocked. Just keep them in an airtight container. They continue to dry out a little bit more over time. Since we're going to be soaking these in coffee or whatever liquids anyways, that actually kind of works in your favor. Can you hear how crunchy they are? Here, listen to another one. Okay, I need to stop. For the next component, we're gonna prep the soak for the ladyfingers. Traditionally, of course, this would be coffee, and usually if I'm going for speed, I would use instant coffee and just dissolve it in hot water, try to make a bit of a concentrated mixture. Recently, since I've been making more tiramisu, I've gone around to experimenting with some more different flavors. So one of my new favorites is using Earl Grey as the soak for the ladyfingers, and then that's how you put the tea in tiramisu. Prep this before the cream because everything else is going to move pretty fast from here on and we're going to get straight to assembly, and you want to give the tea or the coffee, whatever you choose, a chance to properly cool down before you use it. Now to make the cream of the tiramisu, no matter how small of a portion I'm making, I'm always going to include the egg yolk because I think this is what makes the tiramisu a tiramisu as opposed to just a mascarpone cheese frosting. So separate your egg yolk from your egg white. Place the egg yolk in a mixing bowl and add the white granulated sugar. Now usually you would cook the egg yolk over a double boiler, which is just a really gentle way of making sure the yolk is cooked but it doesn't scramble and form little clumps. And you can totally still do that method. You just boil a little bit of water in a pot, then turn the heat down to low, Place the mixing bowl over top of that and just keep mixing it until the egg yolk becomes a little bit paler and thicker and all of the sugar has been dissolved. Now this is the part of the recipe that I really had the goal of simplifying, so I have an alternative technique for you to cook a singular egg yolk really quickly without having to use a double boiler. We're gonna use the microwave. It feels and sounds a little bizarre and probably not Italian approved, but I've done this many times now and it makes the process so much faster. I honestly don't know if I would go back to using the double boiler method when I'm cooking such a small portion. So the way this works is we're going to whip up the egg yolk and the sugar first instead of doing it after it's been cooked. Once it becomes really pale and fluffy and almost doubled in volume, transfer this into a microwave-safe bowl. Then to cook this, we're going to microwave at 10-second increments. We're going to take it out of the microwave every 10 seconds and give it a really good stir to ensure this whole mixture is cooking evenly. You'll notice that the center usually cooks faster, so if there are bits that are kind of solidifying, you want to break it up so that the final mixture is nice and smooth and you don't just have little bits of egg yolks in your final tiramisu. Once this is done, it's going to resemble a very similar texture as what it looks like once it comes off of the double boiler. The egg yolk mixture is going to have thickened, become a lot stickier, and have a little bit of a deeper color. Then I'm transferring back into the mixing bowl because we're going to combine it with the rest of the ingredients. Add the cold mascarpone cheese to it, vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt, and then just whip it up until it becomes smooth and fluffy. Usually I would let this go into the fridge and chill to firm up a little bit before I combine it with the whipping cream, but since it's such a tiny amount and since the cold mascarpone cheese already lowered the temperature of the overall mixture, I just add the whipping cream straight to it. And then just mix until soft peaks form. This simplified process cuts the amount of time it takes to prepare tiramisu by a significant amount, and now we can assemble. You can assemble your tiramisu in any container you'd like, any sort of shallow dish. You can use a mug, a bowl. This is my most beloved little heart ramekin that perfectly fits a single serving of tiramisu. And to assemble, you're just alternating between layers of the espresso-soaked ladyfingers, mascarpone cream, some cocoa powder, more espresso-soaked ladyfingers, more cream, and finishing it all off with a really good dusting of cocoa powder. And then it just goes into the fridge. Let it chill for as long as you want or as little as you want. I prefer overnight. I just think once everything gets to know each other, the flavors and the textures become better. This is how I would typically prepare my own tiramisu, but if you're feeling fancy, here's another way that you can assemble it.